Ask yourself this: how many times have you found yourself worshiping her from the sidelines, giving your attention, your approval, your energy, only to be ignored, dismissed, or discarded? How often have you believed that being her fan, showing unwavering support, would somehow earn her respect, affection, or loyalty? The brutal truth you've been avoiding is this: being her fan is the fastest way to lose power, status, and control. It puts you beneath her, on the back foot, begging for scraps of attention you should be commanding outright. You clicked this video because you're done with the illusion that devotion is strength. You're tired of playing the good soldier in a game where you're never the king. You want to flip the script, to stop being the background character in your own life, to seize control of the frame before she ever sets it. This is not about playing games. It is about wielding power with ruthless precision, about reclaiming your rightful place as the chooser, not the chaser. I will teach you 5 Machiavellian laws that will flip the frame instantly. These laws are not soft. They are not comfortable. They are the cold truths that have guided rulers and conquerors for centuries. If you're ready to stop being her fan and start being the man who commands respect and desire, type "I choose power" in the comments. Your transformation starts now. Being her fan is a trap disguised as loyalty. It is the subconscious surrender of your frame, your authority, and ultimately your self-respect. When you put her on a pedestal, you relinquish the power to set terms and boundaries. You become the audience to her performance, applauding her every move, waiting for approval that will never be freely given. This dynamic creates a profound imbalance. You invest energy, emotion, and status in someone who holds none of these for you. You become emotionally exhausted, drained by a one-sided game where your devotion is met with indifference, manipulation, or worse, exploitation. The more you seek to please, the less you are seen as valuable. Your kindness becomes weakness. Your attentiveness becomes entitlement to your downfall. Look at the men who have fallen into this pattern. They overtext, overexplain, overgive, only to be ghosted, overlooked, or used. Their self-worth becomes tied to her validation, their identity blurred by the need to be liked. They do not realize that their submission is the seed of rejection. Machiavelli understood this dynamic centuries ago. A man who cannot command respect through presence will be discarded regardless of his intentions. Virtue without power is nothing but a mask worn by the weak. If you want to flip the frame, you must first see the cage you've built around yourself by being her fan. This is not about hatred or cruelty, it is about awakening. The moment you recognize what you have been doing, you begin to reclaim yourself. You begin to understand that attraction, respect, and desire come not from endless devotion, but from sovereignty over your own frame. From this moment on, you are no longer her fan. You are the chooser, the one who holds the power to engage or disengage at will. And with that power comes respect, real respect, that no amount of fanfare can buy. The frame is everything. It is the invisible architecture of dominance that shapes every interaction, every conversation, every relationship. To hold the frame is to control the narrative, the rules of engagement, the tone, the direction. When you surrender the frame, you surrender power. You become a character in a story written by someone else, always reacting, never leading. In male-female dynamics, the frame dictates who commands, who chases, who follows. If you are her fan, you have already lost the frame. You are playing by her rules, dancing to her tune, hoping your devotion will bend the story in your favor. But power does not shift to those who wait. It stays with those who set the terms. Machiavelli knew well that perception shapes reality. A prince is not just what he is, but what others believe him to be. Control the frame, and you control the perception of power. Lose it, and you become powerless, no matter your intentions or actions. Your goal is to seize the frame and hold it without faltering. This means defining your boundaries clearly, speaking from a place of authority, and never allowing others to dictate your value. It means choosing when to engage and when to disengage, making your presence a privilege, not a given. Every interaction is a test of who holds the frame. The man who holds it does not beg for approval or validation. He commands attention simply by being himself, firm, calm, and unshakable. The man who loses it apologizes, explains, pleads, and is ignored. The frame is not just about dominance, it is about sovereignty. It is your control over yourself and the story you live by. Once you understand this, you no longer chase approval or affection. You set the terms and watch as others adjust or walk away. This is your foundation. Without the frame, the rest, the laws, the tactics, the power moves fall apart. Seize it, own it, and never let it go. The eyes are the sharpest weapons a man wields, far more potent than any words he utters. To own your gaze is to command presence, to assert dominance without saying a single syllable. The man who avoids eye contact reveals his submission before he even speaks. The man who holds steady, calm, unblinking eye contact signals a confidence so profound it unsettles and commands simultaneously. Too many men, trapped in the role of her fan, look away when confronted with challenge or opportunity. They lower their eyes, shift their gaze, and betray a hunger for approval that instantly lowers their value. But the sovereign man knows that eyes are the gateway to power. The intensity of your stare can cut through deception, dismantle resistance, and claim the space you deserve. History is full of rulers and warriors who mastered this silent command. The Roman generals who stared down enemies before battle. The princes who could halt a court with a glance. Machiavelli himself understood that the spectacle of presence matters as much as action. Your gaze is a silent decree. Here I stand, unyielding, unbending. Practically, this means training yourself to hold eye contact without aggression, steady, unwavering, calm. Too much intensity can provoke, too little invites disrespect. The perfect gaze balances challenge with control. It dares others to meet your presence while silently warning them not to cross the line. In relationships, this law is paramount. Women are wired to read your gaze for truth and strength. When you meet her eyes without flinching, you signal that you are a man who will not be manipulated or diminished. You become the frame, the standard, the unmovable center. Begin today by practicing the art of ownership through your eyes. Let your gaze be your introduction, your declaration, and your shield. Because power lives first in presence, and presence lives in the gaze. Words are a weapon, but often they are the hand that weakens your grip on power. To speak too much, especially to overpraise or explain, is to dilute your authority and reveal your needs. The man who is her fan fills silence with compliments, justifications, and approvals, mistaking volume for value. But volume often invites disregard. Silence, on the other hand, commands curiosity, respect, and control. When you lavish praise too freely, you teach others that your approval is cheap and abundant. They learn they do not have to earn your attention. They can take it for granted. Praise given without restraint breeds entitlement, not gratitude. It turns admiration into expectation and respect into routine, and routine is the enemy of desire. Machiavelli counseled rulers to withhold information and control the flow of communication. In the same way, a man who wields silence tactically forces others to seek his approval, to wonder about his thoughts, and to value his presence. Silence builds mystery. Mystery builds power. In practice, this means learning to compliment sparingly and never to explain or justify your praise. Let your silence fill the gaps. Let her wonder what you think, what you want, what you will allow. The man who keeps his thoughts close to his chest creates a gravitational pull that draws others in. In relationships, this law is transformative. Instead of chasing approval with words, you withhold it until it is deserved. You create a space where your presence is a prize, not a given, and in that space, respect flourishes. Master silence as a strategy. Speak less, listen more, and let your scarcity of words be the loudest signal you send. The ultimate power move is not in chasing, pleading, or explaining. It is in walking away. The man who knows when to withdraw instantly flips the frame, shifting the balance of desire and control. When you walk away, you strip away the illusion of availability, creating a void that others scramble to fill. The fan stays. The sovereign leaves. The fan begs for attention. The sovereign commands it by absence. This is a truth as old as power itself. Scarcity breeds demand. When you make yourself scarce, you become a prize rather than a given. Machiavelli understood the political utility of absence. The prince who withdrew at the right moment preserved his power. The one who lingered lost it. Withdrawal is not weakness. It is calculated restraint. It is a silent threat. I can leave and you cannot stop me. But walking away must be done with dignity and timing. Leave too soon and you appear cowardly. Leave too late and you lose leverage. The art is in knowing when your presence no longer serves your power, and having the will to exit without regret or apology. In relationships, this means not chasing after her approval. When she tests your boundaries or disrespects you, do not tolerate it. Leave the conversation, the room, or the interaction. Let her feel the loss of your energy and attention. This withdrawal forces her to reevaluate her behavior, and you regain control. Mastering this law transforms you from supplicant to sovereign. It rewires the dynamic, forcing pursuit instead of submission. It tells her, and the world, that your value is not dependent on their acceptance. Practice walking away not as defeat, but as declaration. Let absence be your fiercest power. Compliments are a currency of social exchange, but like any currency, their value depends on how they are spent and received. The man who is her fan gives compliments freely, hoping to earn favor or affection. But this generosity often reveals neediness, undermining the giver's power. The sovereign man, by contrast, reframes compliments as deliberate power moves, tools to reinforce his frame, not tokens of submission. Each compliment you give must be a calculated investment, not a giveaway. It must come from strength, not desperation. It should signal your discernment and selectiveness, showing that your approval is earned and valuable. When you compliment with restraint and purpose, you elevate your status. When you overcompliment, you degrade it. Machiavelli taught that all gestures of goodwill, mercy, or praise must serve the ruler's interest. The compliment is no different. It can disarm, attract, or reinforce authority, but only when wielded strategically. In practice, this means transforming compliments into exchanges of power. Instead of lavish praise, offer pointed, meaningful observations that hint at your standards and expectations. Compliment in a way that challenges her to maintain your respect. Let your praise feel rare and precious. This approach also protects you from appearing needy or eager. The sovereign man's compliments create curiosity and anticipation. They make you unpredictable, never too available, never too certain. In relationships, this law flips the dynamic. Instead of seeking to be liked by over-complimenting, you create a frame where your approval becomes a prize. She learns that to earn your praise, she must meet your standards, not the other way around. Master this law, and you turn a simple compliment into a weapon of influence and control. Scarcity is the silent architect of desire. What is always available loses value. What is rare commands obsession. The man who is constantly present, constantly reachable, constantly offering himself becomes ordinary, predictable, and ultimately ignored. But the man who makes himself scarce becomes a prize, a challenge, a force that draws others in like a magnet. Availability kills attraction and respect. Women, like all humans, respond to scarcity because it signals value. If you are everywhere, your worth diminishes. If you disappear, even briefly, the gap you leave stokes intrigue, fuels longing, and flips the power dynamic in your favor. Machiavelli understood this principle well. Power is often preserved by creating distance, by withholding access. The prince who is too easy to reach invites exploitation. The prince who is rare commands reverence. Scarcity forces others to negotiate your terms rather than dictate theirs. In your life, this means consciously limiting your availability. Stop answering every message immediately. Stop always saying yes to her demands. Create boundaries that are felt. Make your time, attention, and affection scarce commodities. Scarcity does not mean cruelty or neglect. It means value. It means teaching others that your presence is not a given, but a privilege earned through respect and alignment with your frame. When you embrace scarcity, you flip the script from desperate pursuer to coveted prize. Obsession follows naturally when your value is clear, your access limited, and your standards unyielding. Master scarcity, and you master desire, and with desire comes power. When you apply these 5 laws together, something remarkable happens. The frame flips instantly. You move from being the fan, the desperate follower, to the sovereign, the chooser who controls the narrative and commands respect. The power dynamic reverses, and you hold the authority to dictate terms, set boundaries, and inspire desire without pleading or chasing. This transformation is not theoretical. History and human nature prove it. The rulers who survived and thrived were not those who begged for love or approval, but those who seized control of the story, who commanded presence through gaze, silence, withdrawal, measured praise, and scarcity. These laws are the distilled tactics of centuries of realpolitik, designed to make you untouchable. Psychologically, these moves disrupt the habitual scripts that create imbalance. They break the pattern of neediness and submission, replacing it with strategic detachment and control. They force others to adapt to your frame, or exit the narrative entirely. The woman who once ignored you will begin to seek your approval. The colleagues who overlooked you will hesitate before crossing your boundaries. The social circle that took your kindness for granted will begin to regard your absence as a loss. This is not about cruelty or manipulation. It is about reclaiming your sovereignty, about living by your terms, not by someone else's expectations, about replacing the illusion of devotion with the reality of power. The laws are simple but powerful. Master them, and you stop being her fan forever. You become the man who sets the frame and lives within it. The final battle is within. You must free yourself from the chains of false devotion, the myth that unwavering loyalty and constant approval are the paths to desire and respect. This myth has left countless men broken, exhausted, and invisible. It has taught you to give endlessly while receiving little, to chase shadows while losing yourself. True liberation comes from reclaiming your ego, not in arrogance, but in sovereignty. You are not here to be her fan, her constant admirer, or her emotional crutch. You are here to be the sovereign man who commands respect through presence, detachment, and clarity. This shift requires brutal honesty with yourself. Your worth is not measured by her attention, but by your control over yourself. Machiavelli's cold truth cuts through the romantic lies. Emotional detachment breeds respect. The man who is too invested is easy to break. The man who masters himself is impossible to replace. Sovereignty begins when you stop defining yourself through others' validation and start defining your life by your own standards. This is not cruelty. It is clarity. It is the necessary strength to flip the frame and own your place in the world, to shed the role of the desperate admirer and become the chooser, the man who offers his presence as a prize, not a given. You will feel the pull of old patterns, the urge to explain, to justify, to give more than you receive. Resist it. Each time you stand firm in these laws, you grow stronger. Each time you withdraw your energy from the unworthy, you reclaim your power. This is the path from simp to sovereign, from weakness to mastery, from lost to leader. Stop giving your power away by worshiping from the sidelines. You are not her fan. You are her choice. This is the ultimate shift that separates boys from men, weakness from strength, desperation from sovereignty. You now hold the blueprint, 5 ruthless laws forged in cold reality, designed to flip the frame instantly and make you the man who commands respect, desire, and control without begging or pleading. If you're ready to stop chasing approval and start owning your power, type "I choose power" in the comments. This is not a request, it is your declaration. Your reign begins the moment you claim it. Remember, the frame is yours to hold. The choice is yours to make. The power is yours to wield.